Good morning, people. I can see lots and lots of you joining our session. That's really great. We will start in a minute or two to allow as many people as possible to join us. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us. This is a joint session staged by a consortium of partners featuring Wetlands International, Caritas Switzerland, Hydro Solutions from Switzerland, and the International Water Management Institute. And we are the consortium partners for a project called Sahel, which operates in two countries in Africa, in Sahelian Africa, in Ethiopia and Mali. We're also joined by Stephanie Piers from the Swiss Development Corporation, from the Swiss government, but unfortunately she's having problems with her mic. She's there. She was going to say a few words of opening. So unfortunately we'll have to do it without listening to Stephanie, but Stephanie, very welcome. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for the support from the Swiss government. I suggest we kick off. Michael, if it's possible, you can share your screen so that we can go through some of the PowerPoint presentation slides. That's brilliant. I hope everybody can see that. As you can see, Sahel is a project that is all about food security. It's about trying to alleviate and improve food security across Sahelian Africa through wetlands conservation and all sorts of income generating activities. Here you see the bullet points of what we call the headlines. A nice map there. I hope you can all see that, with Mali to the west and Ethiopia to the east. 3 boxes for the 3 project sites of Sahel project, Lake Venya and Suru Valley in Mali to the east, and Ziwa Shala, the central Rift Valley lakes, to the east there in Ethiopia. Another way of describing this is that we're conserving blue lifelines for food resilience, peace and security, and we're almost the whole way through the project. We have slightly less than a year left of phase 1. It was funded by Swiss government to the tune of 6 million francs. And the consortium partners pulled together almost 4 million francs of co-financing in associated programs. I've mentioned the consortium. What we have in these 3 project sites, which is absolutely beautiful, is we call them open air laboratories, because the project team gives local people and local stakeholders, especially smallholder farmers, space to adopt innovative or new technologies, technologies which assist in better land and water management. And I would say that the project is absolutely at the heart of the water, biodiversity and climate change crises. It's there at the nexus of those 3. It's about alleviating and preventing poverty through building more robust, sustainable food systems. At the moment, we're at the stage where we've got the proof of concept nicely developed and being tested in those 3 project sites. And we think that will then become scalable across those landscapes and within those project countries, and of course with tweaks to suit local conditions across Sahelian Africa as well. If I could have the next slide, Michael. Next slide, please, Michael. Thank you. Because the subject of the presentation today is on that proof of concept. It's on the crux of what Sahel is producing, and it's an approach, or a set of approaches, known as ecologically sustainable agricultural water management, or ESAWM. And at the moment, we're absolutely thrilled to have a consultant, Dr. Zelika Agida from Ethiopia, working on pulling together all of the different features of those approaches in the 2 countries, in the 3 project sites. And so without further ado, I'd like to pass over to Dr. Zelliker and ask him to take you through the central parts of that, not really toolbox, but that approach of technologies which are being tested in 3 countries. Dr. Zelliker, it's over to you. Thank you. Amasegli nullo.
Just to quickly jump in before you, Zelliker, maybe Charlie, you could quickly explain to the audience as well how they can post questions for the 2 discussions that we'll have today.
Good point, Michael. Thank you. Yes. So if you have a question, either of clarification or some deeper question, then the web page where you entered the session, where you clicked on that button up in that top right hand corner, so the World Water Week 2022 and so on web page, you can put a question into that box. I'm looking at it all the time, and we'll try and share those questions with the panel members as appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you all. So my name is Zelliker, and I am presenting the framework of ecological sustainable agricultural water management. So together with Amara Haile Selassie and Alamsegir Tamru of EMI. Next slide, please. So as an introduction, agriculture, as we all know, is the largest water consumer. Globally, it consumes 70% of the freshwater resources, and in Africa, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Sahel, it reaches about 90% of the freshwater resources. So agricultural water management in the conventional approach focuses mainly on improving yields and water productivity without giving due attention to ecosystems sustainability and health. So in this approach of the ecological sustainable agricultural water management, we envisage to ensure sustaining ecological resources and ecological sustainability while achieving at the same time higher crop productivity. These Sahelian wetlands are key source of livelihoods for food security in the Sahel. This is generally a water scarce region. So all along this, the Sahel region, there is a common problem basically related to climatic variability, population pressure, the pressure on ecosystem, poor markets particularly for smallholder farmers that limits their capacity to invest more on improved technologies, high dependence of smallholder farmers on these wetlands. So rainfall agriculture is less productive, of course, in face of climate change, and therefore irrigation is one means to enhance agricultural productivity. And as a result, agriculture production is increasingly depending on irrigation development. And these wetlands are the main source of irrigation water for the Sahel region. However, these wetlands are facing increasing pressures due to over abstraction of water that impairs their water balances, and that results in uncontrolled water abstraction, disrupted water balances, biodiversity loss, etc. The stressors are mainly climate variability and change, population pressure, and poor markets that exert this high increasing pressure on the wetlands. These are the 2 photos from the 2 case study sites in Lake Zouai and Mali. Next slide, please. So why do we need ecologically sustainable agricultural water management? Is that in this Sahel region, most of the problems are more or less similar, and that resulted in ecologically unsustainable production systems, and that results in food insecurity in the region. There's a bunch of problems there. You can see agriculture uses the largest portion of the water resources. That results in increased food production. So abstraction increases in a controlled manner that disrupts the water balance of these wetland systems. There are increasing degradation of wetlands, poor market for smallholder farmers, increased use of agrochemicals, etc. All this result in ecological unsustainability, and that results in food insecurity in the region. So in the ESAWM, what we consider is market system development, integrated landscape management, access to technology. So with these three, and with enabling factors such as partnerships and policy action, we envisage to ensure sustainable ecosystems, sustainability of livelihoods, food security, and resilience of these smallholder farmers to climate change. So the framework goes like this. I start from drivers. The drivers are mainly population pressure or population growth, climate variability, and poor markets that results in intermediate effects such as increased uncontrolled water abstraction, erosion, sedimentation, limited access to technologies, increased use of chemicals. That in turn results in pollution of freshwater ecosystems, impairing water balances of these wetlands, sedimentation, wetland degradation that finally results in poor agriculture production, endangered livelihoods, food insecurity, and conflicts on access to water. So in the ESAWM, we mainly focus on integrated landscape approach, market system development approach, and improved access to agricultural water management technologies. We have enabling factors such as access to information, policy action, multi-stakeholder engagement and partnerships, also very important, social inclusion, and we envisage to ensure sustainable wetland and biodiversity, food security, sustainable livelihoods, and resilience against climate shocks in the region. Next slide, please. So the situation is that definitely in the Sahel region, scarcity, this is a water scarce region. So water scarcity threatens livelihoods, agriculture, and food security in the whole Sahel region. And as a result, there is a depletion of resource bases, particularly on the ecosystems, freshwater ecosystems. And efforts are ongoing, but Sahel partners at the 3 case study size, 2 in Mali and 1 in Ethiopia, and scaling lessons in good practice for awareness and support are also very important. So in the 2 countries, the 3 case study sites are, the first one is in Lake Zouai Shala Basin, which is in the central Rift Valley, Ethiopia, which is a key socio-economic importance for the local people in terms of irrigation, fishing, tourism. However, there is increasing pressure on the lake ecosystem because of increasing abstraction of water and increased use of agrochemicals. For Mali, the Lake Wenya and Soro basins are the 2 case study sites. And of course, there are also decreasing in the volume of these lakes, of Lake Wenya and the Soro basin. Also, there are increasing pressures of upstream and downstream issues, encroachment in the wetland, and water quality deterioration issues. And of course, we will have case study presentations on these 2, and 3 case study sites later on. So the ESAWM can be supported by a set of tools for hydrological monitoring, crop water demand, spatial data mapping, and water balance and accounting tools. And there are tools that are prepared, developed by the Sahel team, such as the WIP model for Lake Zouai subbasin, CropWatt for crop water demand estimation, Zouai crop mapper, Lake Abiata water level monitoring tool, water accounting tools for the 2 study sites in Mali, web-based remote sensing tools, etc. So there are a set of tools that are developed by the Sahel team to support this ecologically sustainable agricultural water management, and it will be implemented to ensure that. So the challenge so far, the ESAWM is relatively a new approach, and we have to put together all the good practices and experiences from the 3 sites. Learning, documentation, and scaling up based on practice is required to attain the required outcomes. We are working better frame now. We are working to frame the approach by considering practical examples, lessons and case studies from the case study sites in Ethiopia and Mali. Next slide. So the next steps will be develop a more comprehensive framework for the ESAWM. So we envisage to develop, putting together all the good practices, technologies, and develop a more comprehensive framework document practical good examples and practice from case study size, and enhancing collaboration is, of course, is very important. Scaling up good practices by sharing results and lessons from the case study sites in multi-stakeholder platforms is also very important. We're going to do that. There may be additional funding for scaling ESAWM good practice approach is another important thing. Next slide, please. So as a conclusion, in the Sahel region, agriculture consumes over 90% of water withdrawal, and that's causing significant pressure on the ecosystem that results in degradation of wetland ecosystems, that results again in loss of biodiversity, degradation of the water resources, etc. And this needs to be this problem needs to be solved. There's the need to curb this situation as soon as possible. ESAWM can offer promising results through these three approaches: integrated landscape management, sustainable market access, and access to improved technologies. Of course, sustainable partnership or collaboration among all the stakeholders is instrumental to achieve the intended goals of this ESAWM approach. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zeleka Agide from Ethiopia, our consultant working on ESAWM. So we've heard that ESAWM is a complex group, really, of tools and innovations, including some technological improvements to agriculture and water management. This is a good introduction. Thank you very much. Amasegi Nullo.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie.
Very, very nicely done. We're running slightly behind time, so I don't want to take up too much time. Just to say again to the audience, we're very happy. We've got lots of participants. If you do have questions to any of the speakers or in general, you can post them through the World Water Week 2022 website page that you entered this meeting through. We have questions being posed already. The way we're doing this is two presentations and then a wrap up and discussion. So we will get to the questions soon. Now I pass straight over to one of my colleagues from Wetlands International based in Ethiopia, Mr. Redwan Mohammed. Off you go, Mr. Redwan Mohammed, with the case study on Ethiopia.
Thank you, Charlie. This is the case study of the soil project from the ground intervention with the community in the Sahel landscape. And this presentation prepared by Redwan, Gabayo, and Alam Sagad. Gabayo is from Caritas, and Alam Sagad is also from International Water Management Institute. As introduction, this Sahel basin is already explained by Dr. Zeleka. It's a home for aquatic birds, and also it's one of the biodiversity hotspots in Ethiopia, and also diversity of fish and also other animals. There are some key challenges already mentioned by Dr. Zeleka. Maybe I can add about in the landscape we have upper catchment, middle catchment, and lower catchment, and there is a land degradation in the upper catchment or in the landscape, and the other one is irrigation expansion, which is already mentioned by Doctor, and the other one is the pollution from the agrochemical use. This is also one of the key challenges in the last landscape. The other one is a reduction of lake water storage because of the unsustainable and also uncontrollable use of lake water. This is the map of the intervention area. As you can see, we have around 4 lakes in the landscape in the middle catchment: Lake Zwai, Lake Abiata, Lake Langano, and Lake Shala. Especially you can see from the map the upper catchment, which is very green, and then the middle one, and then the lower one. Therefore, there is a connection, natural connection between this ecosystem, and we need to think at a landscape level, the problem at upper catchment, middle catchment, and the lower catchment, and also tackle the problem of the interlinked problems between the catchments. This is the overall goal of the project. It's about ensuring food security and nutrition in Sahel by improving safeguarding wetlands through sustainable agricultural water management. These are key problems or key objectives in the proposal: promotion of ecological agricultural water management, strengthening local economies through supporting the farmers to get access to market linkage, and also mainstreaming and scale up in the results, and also ensuring social inclusion, including gender, and also the target area is the Oromia in the 4 waradas in Oromia region. 2 waradas are at upper catchment and the 2 are in the middle catchment. The approach is we have 2 approaches for the project: integrated landscape approach. As I mentioned, it's about looking into the larger picture of the problem from the upper catchment, middle catchment, lower catchment, and also treating in that way, especially addressing the problems from the upper catchment, middle catchment, lower. As I said, the land degradation, especially from the upper catchment, is bringing the siltation and also pollution to the lake. At the same time, unsustainable use of water from the lake by farmers is also another challenge. The market is a very challenging part of our work, where the brokers are benefiting much from the products. Farmers are not getting direct access to the local and also national market. Therefore, this project is trying to link these producers or farmers. We have Makibatu Union, cooperative union, which has more than 90,000 farmers. And we are trying through this project to link this union to the national and the local market, especially to the universities in the area. These are key results of the project. In terms of land restoration, we have established the buffer zone for the lake, and also we are working on sustainable management of it. The other one is the plantation of more than 20,000 tree seedlings in the upper catchment, especially where the degradation is very severe. And we are also implementing soil and water conservation structures, physical soil and water conservation structures in the upper catchment with the communities. And also are promoting vermicomposting for soil fertility management. And now more than 70 farmers are producing this compost, and they can use it instead of using the commercial fertilizer, which is very costly, and also its cost is increasing from time to time and becoming expensive and unaffordable for the farmers. This is a good opportunity for them. The other one is the through market. We are trying, as I said, to link the union, cooperative unions to the universities, and also we are trying to form a national market forum which can support the farmers to access the national market. The other one is there are organized youths who are producing different seedlings of fruits like avocados and making profit out of it. The other one is the knowledge part. This is the capacity building for the government structure, especially Rift Valley Lakes Basin Development Office under Ministry of Water Resource. This project is trying to build the capacity of them in terms of providing remote sensing tools, softwares, and also creating awareness and also capacity building on water allocation and also hydrological monitoring. The other one is the project is also trying to be inclusive as much as can, including and also addressing the gender issues. The other one is land restoration. I mentioned watershed management, agronomic practices, especially for the farmers around the lake. We are trying to introduce different best agronomic practices and through capacity building on how to save the water and use it, and at the same time how to minimize pollution in terms of using agrochemicals and also fertilizer. The other one is we managed also to form the multi-stakeholders platform, which can support the initiations in the landscape. especially in terms of sustainable management of buffer zone and also agricultural water management. This process is also started now. There are many actors in the landscape. We are developing an MOU to share the responsibilities and the role and responsibilities. This one is some of the pictures taken from the field. The first one is a seedling plantation with the community. The second one is the vermicompost in the farmer's field. This is just to show you some of the pictures from the intervention. This is we are also working on seedling plantation, supporting the nurseries in for the community, and they managed to produce more than 10,000 different tree seedlings and distributed to the community. The other one is this is guerrilla rehabilitation in the project area. This is the physical soil in the water conservation activity. This is a bit of hilly area, and this is done by the community's engagement. And we pay incentive for them, and they also work on this physical soil and water conservation activities. This is some input provision for, especially for poor farmers, by discussing with the local administration, with the local community to support them to have access to inputs. This is knowledge production, especially on water allocation plan. This is some of the practical trainings on how to use softwares, how to collect data and analyze it. Next. This is also what I have presented, the avocado seedling production by the organized use. And this is also an organic shop for the farmers. This is located in Zuwai, and farmers are buying some inputs from them. This is market linkage forum workshop, where we try to engage some of the key actors in the landscape in terms of market development. Therefore, we are trying to link the farmers with the local and the national market. Next. This is the cluster-based cereal seed production in the Tiyo Rada, in the upper catchment, where the farmers are producing using some of the modern machines to produce this cereal grains. The next step will be improving community's resilience in terms of what we started the good practice by scaling up of some of the good practice, and also watershed management activities in the landscape. Expansion of also buffer zone. We tried now to establish around 30 kilometers, but it's the huge areas remaining. We need to address all that areas to make the lake safe. And the other one is training the established system and the scaling up of the initiations. Also looking for additional fund to address more communities. As I said, in the landscape, we have a lot of catchments, a lot of communities. We need to address them. Therefore, we are looking for additional fund for that. Next. In conclusion, the lesson we got from this intervention is, one is engaging local partners, especially the government line offices, and they can adapt that. Especially they appreciated the vermicompost, and they also promised to scale up even by the government structure. This is a good one. The other one is one of the work in the ESAWM. Demonstrating the ESAWM, ecologically sustainable agricultural water management, is very important, and we are also working on establishing some pilot demo sites where the farmers are learning from it. The other one is water allocation planning is very important. We are working with the government and supporting it. The other one is also strengthening the multi-stakeholders platform, where government, NGOs, and community and researchers come together and discuss the challenges on the landscape, and also discuss on the challenges and how to tackle it. The market for the poor approach is very important, and we are trying to work on that. Ensuring social inclusion is very important. We are working on it. And the documenting and the sharing lessons is also another next step for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Redwan Mohammed from Wetlands International. Very clear. Nice to see lots of photos. We are running slightly behind schedule, but not too much. So we're happy to say we do have some time for some questions and some discussion. Those are the first 2 of 4 presentations. After this discussion session, we'll be going across to Mali. So first of all, we have received questions posted on the World Water Week website. Thank you for those. So I'm going to read some of those out and ask that people, I'm going to then point the finger at one of our panel members and ask them to please respond. So first of all, I'm going to go to IMWI, to Dr. Amari Haile Selassie, who works for the IMWI in Ethiopia. And the question that I'm going to ask Dr. Amari is about traditional knowledge. And if I could read it such as, what steps, Dr. Amari, were taken to ensure that traditional ecological knowledge or indigenous knowledge could be brought into program design, as well as treated equitably to other sources of knowledge? And I know you were involved in project design for Sahel, amongst other programs and initiatives over the years. So please could you answer the question, how were
But I think Amara can answer the question.
Yeah, shall I go ahead or? Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I think this is a very interesting and also important question. We passed through several steps. The first thing we did in the project formulation was engagement of community at different level, decision makers, policy makers, from federal government, regional to district officials level, and the community really at the grassroots levels were in one way or another involved in the program formulation. That's one thing. The second thing we did was actually we did a bit of hotspot analysis where critical, for example, soil and water conservation activities are priority. And with that, we try to bring in how community is, they are practicing to conserve soil, what priority technologies are available to the community and their knowledge. So these are the base for us just to bring on board local knowledge and indigenous practices on different landscape management. And probably an important point I would rather like to attach to that is that how this project is also following up on already developed government policies and policies in the process. For example, a buffer zone development is one of the key new government policy direction, which is already in the Prime Minister office for approval. This project is working on buffer zone management planning with full engagement and participatory methods, mapping, and also like what interventions they want to put where and when, with the community district officials on board. So I feel this is the way we somehow bring on board community and their knowledge and their practices into the project. And this, I'm sure, will enable also the sustainability of the whole work we did. That's what I can say right now. Over to you, Charlie. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I hope that is a satisfactory answer to that important question. Thank you. Second question, I'm going to pose to Dr. Zelika Agide, our consultant who gave the first presentation. And the question is about water usage. I'm just missing it at the moment. Here we go, Dr. Zelika, if you could answer the question about the increased or uncontrolled water abstraction. Do you consider that at this time and in this region, we extract enough water for facing at least the real needs? Dr. Zelika, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Charlie, for the opportunity to respond to this question. In my opinion, of course, agricultural water management is the largest water consumer in the region, but definitely so currently about 90% of the water consumption, but definitely this is not enough in view of increasing population, increased demand for agricultural water. The water currently abstracted for agriculture is definitely not enough to meet agricultural water demand. So definitely there is a possibility of increasing abstractions if we continue the same way as we did in the past. So we need to take measures, particularly in terms of adoption of improved technologies, water-saving technologies, that ensures saving the existing, uncontrolled abstraction of water. So farmers can abstract a little smaller quantity of water in order to irrigate the same plot of land they have, if they have more access to information, knowledge on improved water management approach, technologies, water-saving technologies, etc. So definitely agriculture is the largest water consumer. It is consuming 90% of the water, but it still is not enough. The water being abstracted currently is not enough. That's why it's putting a lot of pressure on the freshwater ecosystems in the region that impairs the water balance of these ecosystems. So, the short answer will be it is not enough. This will continue to increase, but we should curb this situation. That means we cannot let the agriculture sector to abstract more water as it did in the past, in the future. So we should stop somewhere. That the agricultural water abstraction should also ensure wetland sustainability by balancing or controlling the abstraction by using those technologies or the concepts of agricultural water management in a sustainable and ecologically sustainable approach. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zelika. Such a, I would almost say, provocative question. Dr. Haile Selassie would like to come in with something.
Thanks, Charlie. This is very tricky question. Just in very short, I say it's not enough for people, but already overburdened for the system. These are ecologically very sensitive areas. Both the Mali and the Zuaishala, there are parks, worldwide recognized national parks. And the depletion of water means just indoor to those hotspot, biodiversity hotspot areas. Now, if it is not enough for people, but already overburdened for the system, then the question is how best to manage. And I think the critical step one has to think is proper water allocation, which already we started. Prioritizing where to use your water, and economically and optimally. Productive water use is a very critical step that this region has to follow. And some of the intervention presented by my colleague earlier proved already, how best to save water through improved agricultural practice, improved variety, improved fertilizer application, and improved saved water application techniques. So there has to be an optimum point where overburden on the ecological system could be somehow, relaxed, and also the demand from people because of food or whatever could be somehow also addressed. Over to you, Charlie. Thanks a lot.
Thank you both of you for that. I can see that we might return to that kind of question at the end of the session, if appropriate, because I'd like to keep this moving along. We're on time, which is great news. So thanks to both of the speakers so far for keeping more or less to time, and thank you for the questions and the answers. We're going to go now westwards. We're going to go to Mali, to the place where two of the project sites are staged. Thank you for showing us the Mali case study slides, and I pass you over to Mr. Ron Del Noy, who works for Caritas Switzerland, based in Bamako in Mali. Ron, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, as you say, my name is Ron Del Noy. I'm the regional program manager on behalf of Caritas Switzerland. I'm based in Bamako in Mali. I think I will just tell more about how we go about the challenge that was discussed just before my presentation, finding the balance between, let's say, conservation and water use. So I think it fits very well at this moment to do this presentation. Maybe what I can mention about indigenous knowledge, how we translated this on the ground, I just would like to add that in this project, some of our technologies, I think currently we are testing about 12 to 15 new technologies or practices. Half of them are totally new. This is more or less due to the fact that irrigated agriculture is new in the region. Till very recently, all the farmers depended on rain-fed agriculture. And we introduced, as an alternative for just the decreasing yields in rain-fed agriculture, we introduced irrigated agriculture, and their practices are fairly new. On the other hand, as to the rain-fed agriculture, there are, I think, half of the technologies we are promoting are based on indigenous knowledge. I just can mention, for instance, the ESAWM methodology, which is mainly digging pits in compacted ground, in compacted soils, digging pits of about 20 centimeters that we fill with organic material and that can catch water. That is one of the technologies we are promoting that existed since very long time, for instance, in Burkina Faso. Another technology we are promoting at a larger scale is farmers managed natural regeneration. Most people maybe know the park landscape that we have in Mali. These park landscapes are based on natural regeneration, but selective natural regeneration. That is something that we are promoting also. These technologies are really based on indigenous knowledge. There are also very interesting indigenous knowledge about, for instance, conservation techniques of produce. So I can say half of our technologies are based on indigenous knowledge. Half of them are probably introduced recently. So back to my presentation. I have the pleasure to present you the intervention site of Lake Venya. As mentioned by Seleke, our intervention sites are more or less a safe space for experimentation for all the system actors involved, but especially our smallholder farmers. And with the project, the Sahel project, in a more or less facilitating role. What is interesting about this project, what makes it fairly unique in my view, is that we have development and conservation on board, especially with wetlands as a conservation agency, Caritas as a development agency working together for the same objectives. That makes it very challenging and very interesting. We have research on board with IMI, so we work research and development, which makes it a kind of research-oriented project. We work on practice change as well as on policy change. The practices on the ground, we try to integrate them in evidence-based policy and advocacy work at a national and international level. And for sure, we work at short-term benefits, especially on the market access, to realize long-term interests. So there we link household level interest or personal interest with collective interests, which I will maybe go further in detail in my presentation. And as of course, we work at local, national and international level in this project. We really aim at this cross-fertilization between the sites and also between the sites and the national and international level. So our results on the ground should feed into the national level, but also the information from national, international level should feed into our work on the ground. So this cross-fertilization is very important. I would like to take you back a little bit to our initial assumption of that underlies our project. In fact, I think Dr. Seleke also already mentioned it. In fact, our communities in the Sahel are caught in this vicious circle where poverty leads to degradation of natural resources, and dependency on these same resources increases their poverty again. So to break through this vicious circle, we like to inverse these trends. So the underlying assumption of our our theory of change is mainly conservation of ecosystems and poverty eradication are intrinsically linked and must be tackled together. You can go to the next slide. We translate that in our intervention logic to two pathways of change. One, the specific objective, mainly about conservation and restoration of the ecosystem. And the second intervention pathway for change is about food security and access to markets. So those two main pathways of change should act at the same time, should just strengthen each other. The project really aims to fully integrate biodiversity and ecosystem conservation with sustainable economic growth and poverty eradication, just in order to make biodiversity an asset for development and development the means to strengthen the biodiversity. I will come back later to the results related to this main assumption. I just give you this very short presentation on the Wenya site. Wenya site is a lake about 120 kilometers north from the capital Bamako. It's a Ramsar site, so it's a protected wetlands since 2013. Although the Ramsar site as such covers only 3,900 hectares. So it's fairly small, especially related to the whole catchment area. The catchment area is about 24,700 hectares. And the project has as intervention zone the catchment area. So it's really, in that sense, it's really a landscape approach. We only work in the villages in the catchment area. And the catchment area counts 43 villages with a population of about 32,000 people. I think at this very moment, it should be more or less 40,000. Statistics in Mali are not verifiable in that sense. What we have done the 3 years since the beginning of the project in 2019, we have a kind of social and physical infrastructure in the intervention zone, so in the catchment area, where we cover currently all the 43 villages. These 43 villages, they have at the village level a committee for the protection of their natural resources. And they are organized at municipality level in 5 committees. Each village has 2 model farmers, 1 man, 1 woman. These model farmers are trained by the project and coached during the first year of intervention. So during the first year, during their practical trainings that they give in their own community, they get support from the project. After that, they just can do that on their own. As to outcome 2, we are currently working not 20, but currently 27 cooperatives with a total of almost 4,000 members. What is interesting is that 2/3 of the members are women. The only way for women to access land in that part of Mali is through a cooperative. As individual women, you can't just access land. So for them, it's very interesting to join the project to cooperatives, mainly for the reason of having access to land and having access to services and markets as a group. We also organized, facilitated the setup of organic business shops at the community level. We are working in 9 communities. So each of these 9 communities has his own agribusiness shop managed by private sector. But we just facilitated it, and it's very important because organic inputs were not known in the region, in the intervention zone. And especially women are not very mobile. They are at least less mobile than men, so they depend on local markets. So we just allow them to have organic inputs in the neighborhood, but also have the information about the use and the way they should use their inputs, and also the content, for instance, of the inputs. So that is something, information goes along with the access to these organic inputs. We have 3 demonstration sites, 3 irrigated sites funded by the project that serve as a kind of demonstration and test sites. And we are testing technologies and practices together with the Institut Plurirural de Katiabou, so National Research Center here in Mali. And we also testing the concept of blue schools in the region. So we have 3 blue schools in the intervention zone. The concept of blue schools, maybe I can just come back to that later. What are our results after 3 years? I think what is important that we started with working on a master plan. So we have a master plan for the Lake Wenya region, which is a 10 years plan owned by the Circle, which is the administrative level beyond the region. And this PESAC, Plan Stratégique d'Aménagement de Gestion du Lac Wenya, is a 10 years plan worked. In fact, we mobilized all the stakeholders, mainly 3 sections, users, administration, and technical services, to develop that plan in 2019. It has been endorsed by the Ministry of Environment in 2020. So that is our formal master plan. We work in all the villages in the catchment, so we can work on a real landscape approach. Till date, we have a very impressive uptake of practices. So the work through these model farmers worked very well. This is from end 2021. We had 9,000 smallholders that apply at least one of the techniques or practices that we promote. Currently, we are already at 13,000 smallholders that apply at least one of the technologies. Taking into account this number of population in the intervention site, that is really massive. Also, as to the land restored by the village committees, end of last year, we were about 500 hectares of land restored or protected. Currently, it's threefolded, so we are about 1,500 hectares restored. Also, very interesting to mention is that the price for agricultural produces in the intervention zone, especially from the cooperatives, is more as twice as high as the price outside the intervention zone. We don't know exactly why that is the case, because I have the impression that is a combination of improved capacity to negotiate prices. They are better organized. They have the relations with the businesses in the intervention zone, but also outside up to Bamako. But the buyers also love our produces because they have a longer shelf life, because they are produced organically. Apparently the shelf life is much better, much longer, and so the post-harvest losses are reduced, which makes the buyers willing to pay a higher price for our produces. What we also do, facilitating relations with several stakeholders in the system. And for now, the cooperatives, they have MOUs and contracts with about 12 to 20 other actors, varying from input suppliers to assurance companies, credit institutions, buyers, wholesalers. It's important to mention that in these contracts, the project is not engaged. So we only facilitate the relationships. We don't sign the contracts as such. But the cooperatives and the unions, they have several ongoing MOUs and contracts running. The challenges faced, I think that is very interesting to come back to the discussion that we had earlier based on one of the questions. What we just observe on the ground is that we have a very successful uptake of the technologies and practices. So as to the uptake of sustainable practices, that is very impressive. But the enforcement of our PSAC, our, let's say, framework, econometer framework, is very slow, in the sense that, especially on outcome 2, the market development is mainly driven by private sector. They act very quickly, and that is really going according to plan and even beyond. Whereas outcome 1, the management of the resource base as such, is really delayed. So what you see is that we are a kind of victim of our own success as to outcome 2, which has an influence now on outcome 1. There is an imbalance between use and conservation at this moment, and that challenges our main assumption, in fact, that we can't find the balance between conservation and consumption or use. The total use of the resources, especially water use, is out of balance with the resource base at this very moment. You can go to the next slide, Michael. So we have this enormous number of farmers that use practices promoted by the project at a farmer level, but collectively at the resource base, that doesn't guarantee that we can conserve the Lake Venya site as such. Water efficiency is improving, but the water balance is not under control yet. What does that mean for our main assumption? Does this assumption still hold true? We still think this 1 year in front till the end of the first phase that it still holds true if we can work on legitimacy of interventions. In fact, the project doesn't have the legitimacy to induce policy change, in particular enforcement. So we depend on the duty bearers to do that. And these governmental entities are very slow, and we have to say also that there is sometimes a lack of trust between the population and these duty bearers. Especially in Mali, we are facing this, let's say, situation of interim government, where there was a lot of lack of social contract between the duty bearers and the population. So we should work on trust, and we are doing that through mutual meetings, visits between farmers and duty bearers, and vice versa between duty bearers and farmers. So that takes time. So we still have 1 year to go, and for the remaining time, it's clear that we need to set our priorities very clearly to reach our final goal. Next steps for the coming year are really to strengthen the creation of this overarching management structure for the lake. They call it in Mali the Comité Local de l'eau. We are working on that. It's really a very inclusive structure. So that is something that takes time in the situation of this lack of social contract, as mentioned. And this Comité Local de l'eau, that should assure the full compliance with agreed upon management agreements in the PSAC, in this document that we had. Also at the intermediate level, we are organizing currently farmers that are organizing cooperatives at union level and the village committees at the landscape level, just to fill the gap between the local level and the national and regional level. To just influence national policies, we missed that intermediate level in Mali. So we started this year 22 with the organization of unions and this committee at the landscape level. And of course, we should take stock of all the successes and hurdles. That I think is very essential in the project. Currently, we have 3 knowledge documents almost ready based on experiences on the ground. And the remaining time of this phase, we really should work on these knowledge products and use them in evidence-based lobby and advocacy. Thanks, Michael. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you for that comprehensive overview of the many activities taking place in the Venya Lake region of Mali. Very impressive set of activities there. Thank you. To the audience, please keep your questions coming in via the SUI World Water Week website. We are collecting those. We've received more. We'll come to a discussion after the 4th and final presentation today, which is by Mr. Sylvain Ragetli from Hydro Solutions, which is a Swiss consulting firm. And he's going to talk about some of the GIS and other analytical tools which are underpinning the work in the 2 countries. So without wasting any more time, Sylvain, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to my presentation. I'm a senior environmental engineer at Hydro Solutions and hydrologist and remote sensing expert. What I want to present to you today is a set of tools based on that use remote sensing data that we use in our study site and that we have now also been able to upscale to the continental scale to monitor wetlands in the Sahel. So the purpose of these tools is to be able to attribute causes to changes in wetlands, to identify the drivers of change. And also we can use these tools for project monitoring and assessing the effectiveness of interventions, and then provide a base for optimal joint operational management decisions. So the first study site is the one that Ron just introduced, Lake Venya. Here we have seen over many years, we have seen a decline in surface water. So at the end of the dry season, there was less and less water in the lake. So we studied this system based on all available data that was available. And we found that the real cause of the loss of storage in the lake is the gradual erosion of the outlet level, and with this actually reduce the total volume of water that is stored at the end of the rainy season. And with less stored volume, the lake tends to virtually disappear at the end of the dry season in the last years. And this is not the only cause. There is also increasing evaporation from the lake. And also we found that it's extremely important to monitor groundwater levels because the lake is very sensitive to changes in groundwater. So next we have bulletin on the transboundary Suru Basin shared between Mali and Burkina Faso. Here we produce monthly bulletins that provides meteorological forecasts and key hydroclimatical indicators. And with this information, we can inform key stakeholders on the state of the wetland and its expected future development. And then we have another app. You're welcome to try out yourself. It's free. It's based also on free data, free remote sensing data. And basically, in this app, we upscale our findings from the other study sites to apply them at the large scale, not only to individual sites, but to hundreds of lakes and wetlands in the Sahel. So I explain now the basic principles of this tool and the approach. So we started with inventory of water bodies in the Sahel, provided by WWF and JRC. And then we use optical remote sensing imagery and satellite laser altimetry to obtain water areas, water levels, and sediment balances and multi-year trends for each of these little white dots that you see on the map. Next slide. So we have from the laser altimetry we get information on the bathymetry of the water bodies, and then with optical remote sensing imagery we identify the lake shore, and by having the information about the lake shore and about the bathymetry, we can identify at every moment in time when we have an optical remote sensing image, so that's about every 10 days, we get information on the water level, and this information is available operationally so almost in real time. And we could also validate this method against data sets. Here, that's from Tahiti. That's a database for hydrological time series of inland waters. Here, that's concerning river stretches. So we can also apply this method to rivers, not only to lakes. And we can look at that data from the period. So that's validation for the period 2015 to 2020, but we can look at 23 years of data, so back to 1999. So that means we can also look at trends. First, this slide showing you some beautiful patterns of sedimentation and erosion in these water bodies. So we can also look at how the bathymetry changes, and this is really important because sometimes you don't have changes in the water level, but simply changes in the storage capacity of these water bodies, especially of lakes. And then if we look at the trends, so here this is showing you the dry season trends from west to east. All the blue spots means there has been an increase in water levels during the dry season, and red spots means a decrease. So we see there is like a heterogeneous pattern. We have both cases. Some increasing, some decreasing trends. And to identify the causes of these trends, we have to look specifically at each site, as we have done for Lac Venue. Next slide. And here, this is very interesting because here we see the same figure, but not for the dry season, but for the wet season. And here we see much more blue. Which means that we have overall over the last 20 years, we can identify an increase of surface water levels in these water bodies. So this means that water is available, especially during the dry season, and then during the wet season, and then the availability of water during the dry season is then a matter of storage capacity. So this is an app that provides operational information on all these variables. And the next steps is to train relevant stakeholders for operational use of the web applications, and also tailor the continental scale application to stakeholder requirements. And at the end, so we can obtain from these tools operational monitoring, operational information on the wetlands, and which allows targeted interventions and to assess the effectiveness of projects and programs. And we can make a detailed attribution analysis to identify drivers of change to make sure that we can define also sustainable criteria for more resilient food system. In general, water is available, but the dry season water availability depends largely on storage capacity above and below ground. And of course, internal variability is also still critical. So these are just the main trends, but there of course can also be dry and wet years. And so we can also use these tools for drought monitoring and at the operational mode. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvain, for a very concise and yet detailed overview of the tools that have been developed as a result of this project and the work of your company. I think the 4 presentations taken together do indeed give some flavor of the breadth of the consortium. It's been mentioned already: development and environment, private sector, and research. And this is the way that the project is moving forward. So it's been great to hear these slightly different perspectives on the same issues and different angles coming at it. We do have almost 20 minutes left for discussion and further questions. That's excellent. So I want to thank all of the 4 presenters for being more or less to time. Excellent work. And so we do have time now for a couple of questions, and please post some more or bring it to our attention one way or another. We've received a couple by email, so I think it's probably somebody who had a bit of an issue with where to post these. The first question I would like to put to Ron in Mali, if I may. Ron, the question is, thank you for showing us fantastic examples of the field cases on working together with farmers towards more sustainable practices. Could you elaborate what, in your view, would now be needed to bring these cases from the landscape scale to national or international scale? So, Ron, if you would briefly respond to that, I think you're probably particularly well placed. What is needed to bring these success stories from landscape scale to national or international scale? Over to you.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, I think that's a very relevant question. What was planned for in our strategy was to organize these visits from duty bearers at the national level to the project site, just to see the work, convince them of the need for this transition of the production system to more organic type of agriculture and to preserve the lake. This was very challenging during the first year of the program because of COVID. We couldn't take them into the field. And since recently, the security situation doesn't allow us to bring high-level missions into the field. So for this year, what we have planned for is take the farmers to the capital, to Bamako, and have dialogues with ministries, with all kind of national level overarching structures like the National Farmers Union. So we do it the other way around. If not, it was foreseen already within the program, but this current security situation is really deteriorating, and we can't take high-level missions into the field. So we will take farmers, and at the international level, it's more or less the work that, especially through IMI and through wetlands, you are doing, guys, within international platforms, networks, seminars like this one. Try to promote the achievements on the ground and try to influence decision makers or even donors to invest more in what we see really the future for these wetlands and the transition that we are aiming for. Would that a little bit reply to your question?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if any of the other speakers would like to jump in and add to that. Amari, maybe on how to upscale to national level, or not.
Yeah, well, I think there are things that are already started. From landscape level to national level. An example of Zoai Shala area. Yesterday, I had a meeting with state minister and the other partners on how to upscale integrated landscape management to national level. They have in their new policy version integrated landscape management across scale. And they invited me considering our role, including from this project, and particularly from the multi-stakeholders platform where Wetland International and the EMI co-organized and functional now in Lake Suai area. So I think by bringing federal government decision makers and other partners on board, I think this is already in their policy. Bringing into the national level is something on its way. Never consider this as something very simple. It needs time, it needs resources, it needs commitment, both from decision makers and the communities themselves. And of course, people involved in whatever sort kind of activity in the integrated landscape management approach. Yes, the international level, it is about bringing this in board to the scientific community and also the donors who would support this activity further. Like for moving from the landscape to national level is not also easy. Probably this is even more demanding. I think we have to continue generating evidence, continue, advocating, showing cases, showing case examples in practice, so that we'd be able to convince and the donor community take up the idea, and probably more number of countries in the Sahel region would be the next probably target, just to show this kind of exemplary work. Thanks. Over to you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Thank you, Amari, for that. We have one more question and time for one more week. Our official finish time is 9:50, so 10 minutes before the hour, but we're allowed to stay for another 10 minutes. So let's utilize that time. This is a question I'm going to pass to Sylvan Regletti from Hydro Solutions. The question is as follows: the continental scale water monitoring tool looks impressive. Is this tool being used by national and/or regional level decision makers on where targeted action is needed in order to safeguard lakes? ? And if not, what would be needed to bring this tool to the forefront of these important stakeholders? Sylvan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And yeah, the continental lake monitoring tool is indeed impressive in terms that we can access information from at the continental scale, so from many water bodies. But so far we have made our best experience with monitoring tools for specific sites. So for instance, Ethiopia, we have made a very good experience with applying such tools. And there's also stakeholders are also relying on these tools. And then at the continental scale, it's like a very new technology, and maybe it's not my expertise to find the actual users of the tool. So it's still something that we have to work on, definitely, to bring this information to the stakeholders, to make this to use this new technology, because very recently this was simply not available, such information. So it's an opportunity, but also a challenge for us to bring that to find stakeholders to use it at the continental scale. At the local scale, it's more easy if you have partners on the ground. You can. What here is very important to train, of course. It requires a lot of training, and but once you have tailored an application to a specific site, you have trained the users, and can be very useful.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe someone else can respond to the question. So what is needed to bring this tool?
Yeah, I'm Ari
To the
Selassie from IMWI.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Charlie. Thanks, Sylvian, for a very good presentation. I think, well, I'm not expert also in this, but I understand where those kind of tools could be very supportive, both on application by national partners, and also we said one of the question I tried to address before was how can we scale this to international level? Really, this kind of tools are very critical to know where situations are deteriorating across the whole Sahelian region, so that prioritize and target interventions and future development direction is one way that we can make use of this kind of tools. I think capacity building, continuous monitoring and the coaching is one way to ensure that the national partners are using. Because in many of the cases, I can talk about the Ethiopian situation now. Issue of water is on board, is on on head of any of discussion agendas at policy level, because things are deteriorating. Flooding, drought is one of the major challenges of development in the country. Therefore, I think by helping them to know, understand, and apply those tools, it is first a very good step. And as I said, to auto scale to larger scale at national level, and also at the global level, and also facilitate the planning. I think planning is very critical. I'm sure you understand that. So that's in brief what I would like to say, Charlie. Over to you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Unless any of our other presenters and panelists would like to jump in on that question. I think with us slightly beyond the time now, what I'd like to do is to give a few closing remarks, actually. Normally this would have been done. I don't see any questions. Sorry, firstly, I just explained, I don't see any questions, any further questions arriving into the World Water Week box. So the Swiss government has been supporting this this program for its duration so far, and we're very grateful to Swiss Development Corporation SDC for their support, not just financially but also in other ways, technically, intellectually, as well as with the offices there in Mali and in Ethiopia. So firstly, to say a very big thank you from the project sites and from the consortia members to Switzerland for this support. I think hopefully what you as our audience have been able to get from this is that the ESAWM project is a innovative project that's based on many cornerstones, including traditional indigenous knowledge, but also new technologies such as the water management app. It's involved many thousands of farmers in the 3 project sites, many of whom have actually adopted the new technologies, new in inverted commas, I would say, technologies. I've always believed that the hardest thing in the world, we can write numerous policy papers, research papers, and so on. Hardest thing in the world is to get farmers and other land users to change their practices. And if we do that, if farmers and land users and water users are changing their practices to a more sustainable route, then we're really on to a winner. So I think that Sahel is a good example of those types of new innovative approaches for boosting food production at the household level, but at the same time, safeguarding our precious wetland resources. I think wetlands are the best bet in drought risk mitigation and adaptation to climate change, especially in arid areas such as Sahelian Africa. So it seems to me this project is right on the ball in terms of what it's trying to address. I hope that everybody who's been following us for the last 1.5 hours has been able to hear and to learn about the work in the 2 project countries and overall at the international level. Please look at our websites. All of the project partners have this project on their websites. You can look at the Wetlands International website, you'll find it very easily, and feel free to contact us. We're here, all of us are very, very welcoming new ideas, new suggestions. You can see how the project is an adaptive kind of project. The open air laboratory idea is where it's at. So we welcome all inputs, all suggestions, all criticisms, all positive and negative feedbacks, because it's a real project working with real people in real places. So thank you once again to the presenters for their timely and concise descriptions of the work. Thank you to those of you who have posted questions. I hope that you received satisfactory responses to those. Feel free to write to us if you'd like to follow up any more. And thank you to everybody who joined us. And lastly, thanks again to the Swiss government. And I suggest that we continue World Water Week and hopefully take some inspiration from Sahelian Africa, which, as I'm sure many of you will agree, is one of the most important areas and right at the crux of the water, biodiversity and climate change crises right now. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Merci vielmal. Amasegi nullo. And enjoy the rest of World Water Week. Congratulations to the presenters, and over and out. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks all.
Thanks, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.